Busca en YouTube Quiero irme de fiesta, cuca, esta malita.
Por espacios y todo, ¿eh?
Sí.
Ya lo tengo.
¿Está nuevo? ¿Qué tan lento va? Mira esto.
Ya.
¿Al mismo tiempo?
Haz un número 2. No, pues que avísame para hacer.
Ah, ok.
Haz un número 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 segundos. Suficientemente rápido.
Suficientemente rápido para irnos de fiesta. Ahorita le mando el link a todos para que puedan ver.
Si ahorita no nos avisen ni chinga. Ahora un poquito más de agua.
Sí. Ahorita nos bajamos y a todos nos vamos.
Sometimes they're huge. You know, I've seen little storms blowing and kind of look hard. This you didn't even look hard.
Es un verbo, güey. Es poquito, pero
Obscured, take round dust. And as I worked it, I couldn't wait to come back. And when I did, I saw that dust going to go west, now over the Atlantic Ocean. In my next orbit, I see it hitting the coast of South America. Every year, about 27 million tons of that African dust we can see from orbit drops out of the sky into the Amazon basin. And it turns out it's the perfect fertilizer.
Okay. Stay.
And as they grow, the plants and the trees turn carbon dioxide into oxygen. One single tree can produce enough oxygen to support 2 people. And the Amazon rainforest is 10 times the size of Texas, producing 20 times more oxygen than all the people on the surface of the earth could consume. But not one breath of it leaves the Amazon. There are so many animals living in the Amazon basin that the life there uses all that oxygen up.
For all these years, I've been thinking the rainforest is the lungs of the planet. Now, sure, it makes a lot of oxygen, but it uses it all. The rainforest does help us breathe, but not because of air. There's a river in the Amazon. No, not that one. There's another river. A river in the sky. For the most part, I know this world from standing on its surface. I mean, I've been up to the top of the Empire State Building and I put my quarter in the scope. And I've even jumped out of planes a couple times. But that's nothing. The International Space Station clocks in at 1 million feet.
Whenever there's a free moment on the spaceship, we try to get to the window to take pictures. And during my 3 space flights, I took about 45,000 photographs. And some parts of the world are easy to take pictures of, like the outback of Australia. It's always a sunny day there. But there are parts of the world that you almost never get a good picture of. One of those is the Amazon basin. So it makes you think, what's going on down there?
For the last 10 years, Rosa has been working in the Amazon, uncovering the surprising way the rainforest helps the whole planet breathe.
Nós estamos introduzindo instrumentos de medição muito sensíveis e instalando em algo muito especial.
She's not kidding about special. This is the tallest structure in all South America. Rosa has tried to climb this tower twice before, but she's never made it to the top.
Na primeira vez, teve uma tempestade e daí eu tive que voltar. Da segunda vez, as minhas pernas não aguentaram. Dessa vez, eu estou determinada a conseguir.
Now, that's a pretty cool climb, but something else is rising too. If you could look inside the trees, you'd see water sucked up from the forest floor. When the water hits the top, the combination of sun and wind turns it into a mighty river, a flying river.
Com essa torre agora, podemos medir a real dimensão desse rio voador. Se fosse um rio normal, esse seria o maior rio do planeta. Ainda maior que o rio Amazonas que está ali.
This river of cloud flows across South America, obscuring everything beneath it. Until it runs into a brick wall, 5,500 miles long and up to 4 miles high. The Andes. The clouds condense into raindrops, which then race down the slopes and flow directly back into the Amazon basin. Eroding the rock and turning it into sediment. Until all those nutrients are dumped into the ocean and a whole other world. And waiting for those sediments is an extraordinary organism, 4 times thinner than a human hair. It's called a diatom. Diatoms are the secret to the Earth's oxygen supply. They used silica from ground-up rock to create new shells, which allows them to reproduce. Their population doubles every day, and they begin to photosynthesize, each one starting to produce oxygen.
Take a breath. Now take another. Now think about this. One of those breaths was entirely provided by those little fellas under the sea.
Looking at the oceans from space, sometimes you see a local area that's an entirely different color. Amazingly enough, what you're looking at is microscopic life. Diatom blooms that reflect the light differently so that they show up from space.
Biggest one I think I ever saw was huge. It covered hundreds of miles.
You know, when you swim in the ocean, you don't notice the diatoms around you. But when you're in space, you see the vibrant colors of life.
It's just so stunning, the blues and the greens, but also like, wow, those things are keeping us alive.
But you know what? Diatoms are important not just because of what they do when they're alive, but also what they do once they're dead.
I spent 166 days underneath you. The planet is silently, intimately revealing itself to you more and more every single time. And from a spaceship, Earth is definitely the blue planet. And pretty much everywhere that there's water, there's diatoms. There are trillions of them in every ocean, And they can't all rely on flying rivers. So diatoms around the world have to get their nutrients in different ways. Some are about as far away from tropical rainforests as you can get.
Tiens, les gars, allez-y. Bon, tiens, les gars, ralentissez. Vous pouvez vous arrêter juste ici. Et déployez les hydrophones.
These glaciers are unusual. They can slide in sudden spurts. Still too slow to see in real time, but fast enough to hear if you know how to listen. Sometimes they move 300 times faster than their normal glacial pace. Heidi can hear them crushing a huge amount of rock as they grind their way down the valley. And when ice meets sea, it makes a familiar sound.
Ça ressemble au son des Rice Krispies. Le son des bulles d'air qui s'échappent de la glace pendant que la glace fond sous l'eau.
The popping is a heads up for the team. The ice face is about to crash.
J'entends de plus en plus d'activité là. Vous pouvez rentrer, ok? Et un seul peut décharger des milliers de tonnes de glace dans la mer. Et toute cette poudre de roche, c'est la nourriture parfaite pour les diatomiques.
Diet time, dinner time. And sometimes these glaciers move really fast, dumping tons and tons of nutrients into the sea. Boom! Sparking a feeding frenzy and a population explosion. But then, just as quickly as it started, dinner time is over. The glaciers come to a grinding halt and lie dormant sometimes for decades. Boom becomes bust.
When the nutrients run out, the blooms fade, and most of the diatoms die. Their carcasses slowly fall to the ocean floor, where they carpet it in a layer half a mile thick. We call it marine snow, and that's exactly what it looks like. Snowflakes. But unlike snowflakes, they never melt. And over millions of years, the seabeds rise, ocean levels fall, the ocean floor becomes a salty desert. The desert that flows all the way to the Amazon, that was once a seabed. And the dust that makes the rainforest grow dies on shelves. It just goes to show how incredibly interlinked everything is.
There is absolutely nothing on one side of the planet that isn't connected in some way with the other side.
It's astounding how all the systems down there must work together in order for us to breathe.
Which is great. But you only have to mess with oxygen a little bit for things to start going really wrong.
3, 2, 1.
I've flown 100,000 miles. I'm feeling very still. Planet Earth is blue, and there's nothing left to do.
I love the fact that the Earth is a blue sky. You can look up in all of the various shades of it, the deepness of it, and the way the colors change close to the horizon. And that's everything. We breathe and it keeps us alive. And you sort of fool yourself into thinking it's really, really deep. Like it goes on sort of forever. But when you're on board a spaceship and you look straight down, you hardly see the atmosphere at all. It's only when you look to the horizon that you can see just how thin our atmosphere truly is. The thinnest of delicate blue lines. It's because the gravity of the Earth is pulling every single one of those air molecules, pressing it against the ground. But the further up you go, the thinner it gets. It's sort of like if you pluck a string on a guitar. When does the note stop? And our atmosphere is like that guitar string. It just gets less and less the higher you go. Well, what's surprising is how fast that happens. That blue line is so thin that you can walk to where the oxygen starts to run out.
Being a doctor in Maui Konada means that you have 25,000 patients living year-round in a town as high as Everest Base Camp.
Buenas tardes, señora Angélica. ¿Respiren? Muy bien. La mayoría de los pobladores sufren los pulmones. Aquí solo hay la mitad de oxígeno que hay en el nivel del mar.
When Spanish settlers first arrived here, the lack of oxygen killed many of their babies at birth. Yet people still live here. They still work here. Because in these mountains, there's something that's rooted people through history. The promise of gold. This is the limit though. Humans can't live any higher.
Without enough oxygen, our organs can start shutting down. And it can happen surprisingly quickly. So astronauts actually train to recognize their own symptoms of a lack of oxygen, of hypoxia. In my case, there's a slight dizziness. My vision starts to get a little bit narrow. The colors become a little more brittle, like maybe a certain type of painter's way of using only the primary colors. Sound changes a little for me. It becomes a little bit more staccato, sort of a snappy sound to everything that's going on around me. And as soon as I put all those things together, I realize I'm running out of oxygen. Okay, so I have a serious problem here, a serious problem. Blind in both eyes. What did you just say? Can't see. Heard your oxygen. Precious oxygen. I wasn't really sure how that was going to turn out. But as the oxygen hissed through and out my purge valve, the tears that were coming out of my eye, my tear ducts, slowly started evaporating. My vision began to return bit by bit. And what had caused it was pretty simple. It was the anti-fog on my visor that had been picked up by floating water in my suit and gotten into my eye. With confidence, I could reach up and close the valve and stop venting my precious oxygen out to the rest of the universe. It's vital that we get enough oxygen, but too much can be just as dangerous. You see it when you blow on a little tiny fire. Just blowing that little bit of oxygen turns that tiny spark into a flame. And it's exactly the same for the whole planet. A rise in oxygen levels can threaten life on Earth.
$300 million years ago, there was a lot more oxygen in the atmosphere. So much that the planet just burned. But don't think that danger zone in the past. Too much oxygen and we fry. Too little, we choke. We're walking a tightrope with death on either side. And just like a tightrope walker, the only thing that can save us is balance.
Balance is crucial for the makeup of the atmosphere and for life itself. The thing is, we don't fully understand how the Earth manages it. Despite diatoms having to wait for glaciers and South American trees having to wait for African dust, and despite the fact that human population has been steadily increasing, the relative amount of oxygen in the atmosphere has been surprisingly constant.
For millions of years, oxygen has made up 20.95% of our atmosphere.
Exactly, 20.95%.
Everything's somehow buffering out and keeping things pretty darn stable.
Tuốtชีวิตล้วนมีความเกี่ยวเนื่องสัมพันธ์กันไม่มีสิ่งใดตั้งอยู่อย่างโดดเดียวทุกสิ่งบนโลกใบนี้ล้วนเป็นส่วนประกอบของสิ่งอื่นๆและพิธีนี้ที่จัดขึ้นก็แสดงให้เห็นชัดเจนถึงความสมดุล
100,000 Buddhists gather here for the festival of Maja Puja. Each one lights a candle. They celebrate with their flames at a temple made from 1,000,000 Buddhas.
และพวกเราต่างแสวงหาสมดุลของชีวิตเพื่อมุ่งไปสู่ความสงบนิ่งและสภาวะแห่งธรรมชาติที่สมดุลเหมือนการดำรงอยู่ของโลกใบนี้
Every breath we take, 16 breaths a minute, 23,000 breaths a day. Every inhale and exhale of that precious oxygen couldn't happen without earth, water, wind, and fire. The whole planet works as one to create that thin blue line. The mark of a living world we've seen nowhere else in the universe.
I really wish that everyone could see the world the way that I've had a chance to see it. You have to wrench yourself away from the wonder and the strangeness. And the beauty of space life is when you come back with a real sense that this Earth is one place, one shared place. We're all crewmates on the same ship.
We're not just rare. We're not just special. We are unique. And that's what makes this one strange rock. Next time on One Strange Rock, our paradise planet came from collisions, carnage, and chaos. The impact is still shaking us. Most people go through life trying to not get here. So, oh, good. See that like, oh, good. I could have won. The trick is to roll with the punches and hope that you don't get floored by them. Our world was born out of violence. A storm that has raged since the beginning of time. A storm with the power to destroy planets. One mighty collision can change everything. It's done it before, and we can do it again. Most of us live in blissful ignorance of the chaos around us. But 8 astronauts with over 1,000 days in space between them can tell us how being up there helped them to truly understand what goes on down here.
Every day, the Earth plows through about 40 tons of material in space. There's so much activity, so much action, and our planet is right in the middle.
Space isn't a vast and empty space, but a dynamic cosmic storm.
It's a storm that could kill us. But without it, we wouldn't be here at all.
This is a story about the weird connections, the near misses, the lucky breaks that created this amazing world. For 4.5 billion years, our planet has been battered and bruised and punched and pummeled. But we're still standing. It's actually the battle that's built us. And this is the tale of the tape.
This guy's awesome. All right.
Nicole Stott is an engineer, pilot, and oh yeah,
Cool, huh?
she lived for 3 months in space.
Hold your runway stutter before you identify.
Frankly, she's a badass.
Now imagine all pressurized and having to work and it's really long. Here I was, it was so unbelievable. I'd spent almost 20 years helping build spaceships, and now here I was myself on one. Just amazing. You ever watched any new space one? Yeah. Is that fun? Scary? Yeah. Why was it scary? When you're in space, 250 miles above our planet, and looking at these things you thought you knew, you see them in a totally new way. For example, the first time I saw a shooting star from the space station, was this very visual reminder that there's a lot of other things traveling through this same space, in space.
What I did see, the first time I saw it, it kind of startled me. It was a shooting star coming in below us. That's a micrometeorite coming into the earth and burning up the atmosphere. You see this sort of firework display thing going on.
I was doing Earth observation, and I'm taking a photo, and all of a sudden I see a hole just magically appear about that big in the solar panel. You know, that was probably hit by a grain of sand, something that size, coming at 17,500 miles an hour in a different orbit.
You get hit by rocks all the time. You can hear them ricocheting off the hull. You can see the scars of them in the windows of the spaceship.
It's a little mind-boggling when you think about how much is really out there.
Mostly the stuff up there is pretty small, burns up in the atmosphere, nothing to get worked up about. But there's some pretty big rocks up there too. Ask the dinosaurs.
We believe the asteroid that caused the extinction of the dinosaurs started way out in the solar system. You know, traveling that distance, it's incredible that it found this target of Earth. Bad for the dinosaurs, but ultimately good for us.
We all think we know this story, but there's something special about the place where it happened. In the jungles of Mexico.
Here in Mexico, I had the chance to dive in what is the most magical place to freedive in the entire world. This incredible place was created with very strong violence when the asteroid hits. And the result of this is this calm place, this paradox. This place, which is now very quiet, was at some point where something dramatic happened. Life almost disappeared. But at the same time, this is where our story started. And this is why we are here now.
When this area was scanned, we saw that hundreds of these flooded Mexican caverns connected together into a vast semicircle. The edges of a huge crater, 110 miles across and 12 miles deep. An asteroid that big hitting the planet anywhere is going to be devastating. But scientists think it was especially devastating because of where it hit. A bullseye strike on a large sulfur reserve. The sulfur rock vaporized, sending billions of tons of polluting gas into the atmosphere, blocking out the sun. The earth froze and the dinosaurs died.
So this big old asteroid's been journeying for billions of years through space before it gets to us. And the Earth spins, right? So if the rock had arrived just a few seconds later, it would have crashed out in the deep ocean. No bullseye, no firestorm, no dino extinction. Earth's history is full of moments like this. It's a tale of destructive good fortune that connects the death of a planet, 10 million African bats, a clock in the sky, and tiny rocks from the birth of our solar system. Some about the size of my fist.
There's a lot of rocks hitting us from space. If they make it through our atmosphere and hit the surface of our planet, people go in search of these in very remote places to try to find them. They're extremely valuable because they contain really the story of where our Earth came from.
In Morocco, we have a couple of buzzes every year of something that's way cool, super awesome meteorite. If a meteorite is found in the desert and word gets out, especially if it's of extreme value, and there is like a gold rush. We're talking about the building blocks of our planet. Some of the most valuable meteorites are carbonaceous chondrite meteorites. They're the oldest form of solid material in the solar system. All the universities want it. All the museums want it. The Bedouins are getting amazingly good at recognizing these things. But what are they?
Rules around the powers, that's it?
回去就讲，
什么意思？
To the untrained eye, these might just look like a normal rock. But the really old ones contain all the raw materials to build a planet like Earth. 4.6 billion years ago, where Earth is today, there was just a giant cloud of gas and dust, all swirling around the universe. This was where the cosmic storm started. First off with tiny particles, attracted by an electrostatic force. It's a slow process, but eventually clumps grew into solid matter. Still only as big as a grain of sand, but now with just enough gravity of their own to pull other grains in. These grains fused into rocks, and as they smashed and clumped, the collisions grew in intensity. Under immense heat and pressure, the rocks began to build our planet. There seems to be nothing subtle about the way Earth was built. It would almost be like building a space station with a sledgehammer.
All those bits smashing together, they were everything we needed to build a living planet. The calcium in our bones, the gold in our wedding rings, even the iron in our ships was all here from the beginning. Except one thing was in short supply: water. But it was on its way and coming in fast.
A lot of astronauts will tell you that from 6 years old, watching the moon landing, that they knew from that moment on that astronaut was the job that they wanted to do. For me, it wasn't that way. My background is aeronautical engineering. I wanted to do something with flying that allowed me to learn about how things fly. And then ultimately, if you want to know how things fly, I can't imagine not wanting to know how rocket ships fly. And then one day I got this phone call to say that I was assigned to fly a long duration flight on the International Space Station.
Nicole didn't set out to fly on the ISS. Her job was to build the thing. But once she got up there, she still had an eye for design.
So as an engineer, you can imagine, I couldn't help but look at the Earth and wonder, how does that work? What's blindingly obvious when you look at Earth is water is the key. But early Earth didn't look like this blue planet that I saw. It was a dry and barren rock. For life to thrive like it has done, the Earth needed a delivery of water. We believe soon after the Earth was formed, our water came from space in a hail of violence. been brutal. We think it lasted for about 100 million years. Icy comets and asteroids collided with the planet event to supply us with that top-off water. But unlike Mars and Venus, who were surely bombarded by the same storm, we kept our water. As luck would have it, the seed that would one day grow into Earth as we know it found its place at the perfect distance from the sun, what we now call the Goldilocks zone. Not too hot, not too cold.
The solar system is vast. Earth could easily wind up somewhere where every drop of water either froze up or boiled away. But here it's solid, gas, and liquid all the time. It only takes a tiny change like a sunrise for things to get a little bit slippery.
For me, the most exciting thing for ice climbing is that it's just water. Every year it changes structure, it never grows the same. It always looks different, so each ascent is unique. Of course, if it's more than 0 degrees, the ice starts to melt, and at some point it can just collapse.
Solid, liquid, gas. Earth's water is a shapeshifter, constantly changing forms. And as it moves from snow to sea, from stream to steam, it helps make the weather that keeps this planet a paradise for life.
From space, you can see clouds at the tops of the Amazon basin, but you can also see them evaporating on the oceans. And so these systems are all interconnected.
A natural, seemingly inevitable process of turning the oceans into rain is the very essence of life itself on Earth.
Without it, there would be no rivers, no groundwater, no plants, no animals. The continents would be dead.
It actually surprised me how dynamic the planet is. Clouds whirling, lightning storms propagating over the surface, the ocean currents visible, and you realize this thing is not a dead rock down there, this thing is alive.
So we could thank our lucky stars, I suppose, that the seed that started Earth was in the right place for water to exist in its 3 states.
Our planet was born out of cosmic dust, then watered by a storm from above. But all those blows were nothing compared to one that literally ripped the earth apart. You see, Earth had a twin. A twin that threatened our existence. The Earth is the result of many, many collisions. But the most violent collision of all was unknown to humankind. Unknown, that is, until we went to the moon.
I have really vivid memories of our first moon landing. Sitting in front of the black and white TV. For some reason, I remember having a grilled cheese sandwich. We thought, how could there possibly be anything common between the Earth and all its beautiful earthly colors and the gray of the moon, this cratered surface? What we found surprised us. Moon rock and Earth rock had striking similarities, suggesting that both the Earth and the Moon had somehow originated from the same place.
Well, there's only a handful of ways that could have happened, and none of them are pretty.
The prominent theory is that there was something else in the Goldilocks zone. Another planet called Theia, and it was on an intersecting orbit with Earth. In space, when two things are in an intersecting orbit, with enough time, it's inevitable that those two things will collide. Both planets became molten on impact. We have debris thrown out into space. When this cloud of debris eventually cools, it condenses into a new cosmic partnership. Planet Earth and a uniquely large moon.
Our moon was ripped right out of us. Because of that, it's big and close and has a lot of pull. Pulls the sea in, pulls the sea out, tides. Simple, right? But things get harder when that same sea is covered by ice. Which is something that granddads know and modern kids can stand their life.
Tinutalo each day in a connotation of the channel. ya si llegó. Hani şöyle kafaya vurdu diye bir de koyuyor onu. Nefis seferin Mexico atani. İşe kardeşime hakkı namluların attı. Takip edip gördüğünde bu bir ateşi oldu.
Lucas say knows when the moon is full, the tide is strongest. And they'll have a few more minutes under the ice. The best chance to grab their catch.
We shouldn't underestimate how influential the moon is in all of our lives. Those regular tides also help give us another kind of rhythm. One you might assume had been with us all along. The collision that ended up forming the moon sent the Earth just spinning. The day back then was just 5 hours long. It was the drag of the tides that eventually slowed the Earth down to where a day became 24 hours, like we know now. The 24-hour day. Waking up, having breakfast, working 8 hours, making dinner, day in, day out. These cycles, they're embedded in our DNA.
The violent whack that gave us our moon, our tides, and our 24-hour day, it gave us one more thing too. Summer in Philadelphia.
When I think of the space station, I think of this like beautiful masterpiece in space, just hanging there. The ultimate engineering challenge was, how do you make your spaceship as much like Earth as possible? Crossing the hatch from the space shuttle into the space station the first time, I remember thinking, wow, it's not the neatest place I've ever seen. Wires and cables and computers and equipment all strung along these walls. The way we live there is we've essentially mimicked what we have naturally occurring on our planet. We have to generate the oxygen to breathe. We have to generate the electricity to power all of our systems. We have to figure out a way to clean the air so we can continue to breathe. Because we're human beings and can only live comfortably really within a certain temperature range, the whole space station, all of the systems are working really hard to maintain that environment for us. And then you look down at Earth and you realize that's exactly what nature is doing, just on a mind-blowing scale. And we've got that cosmic collision that made our moon to thank for it. Oh, wow. That collision between Earth and Theia was so violent that it actually knocked Earth off its axis. Oh, there you go. So let's just pretend this is our sun and this is our Earth, and our Earth is tilted. Due to that collision, tilted 23.5 degrees. For 6 months of the year, the northern hemisphere is favoring the sun. And for 6 months of the year, the southern hemisphere is favoring the sun. The shift in the sun's energy from north to south throughout the year is constantly trying to move the hot areas to the cold areas and the cold areas to the hot areas. This tilt of the Earth results in our seasons.
The seasons constantly change and shape and contour the land underneath. The world is constantly adjusting itself.
From the vantage point of space, you can see the ever-changing planet through the seasons, snow-capped mountains to desert plains.
I really never thought of this until just very recently. You know, I'm seeing all the seasons at once. So I'm seeing the winter in the northern hemisphere and it's summer in the southern hemisphere.
If we had no tilt, nearly half the planet could be frozen all year round. Nicole would be fine in Florida near the equator, but growing up in Philly, there'd be a glacier in my backyard.
Because of our tilt, there really are few places on this planet where life can't thrive. Life on our planet is synchronized with our seasons. Raising its young in spring and readying them for winter.
4.5 billion years ago, we started with a smash and created a tilt that made our seasons, that gave us the rhythms of existence. But more than that, it gave us the diversity of life we see around us.
About 5 minutes past 6. The first vessel starts coming out. It seems somebody has given a sign. Quickly they can handle it. Before you know it, they are moving and stopping school. It's the largest mammal migration on Earth. They fly out in every direction, covering an area of 10,000 square miles.
Hard to imagine, but for most of the year, Not a single one of these bats lives here. All 10 million arrived from across Africa, chasing the rains to gorge on ripening fruits.
Every single night, they will consume roughly half their body weight in fruits. So considering that we got about 10 million, that is roughly 1,000 tons of fruit every single month. They will eat the fruit and they get also digest the seeds. After that, they will move some distance, which might be 50 or 100 kilometers. By that time, the seeds will have passed through the digestive system and will end up somewhere there on the forest floor. We are looking at literally billions of seeds flying all over the continent.
These bats are essentially a flying forest delivery system. The tilt of the earth means cold moves to hot and hot to cold. It means winter gives way to spring just as summer yields to fall. It means bats fly across a continent, seeding forests as they go. The world is connected in 1,000 ways, and all because one massive lack. So, is the danger all in the past, or is this to come before another storm? This planet is only here because we've weathered just enough body blows to build our world. So far, it's been a perfect storm that's made our perfect home, one that feels stable, safe, reliable. It isn't.
Imagine yourself on a boat. Out in the middle of the ocean. In the middle of a storm. A big storm. It's very real to me. It might even be a little bit scary. But if you have the opportunity to just zoom in on one of these tiny little droplets and see that inside that little droplet are these tiny little microorganisms that are just oblivious to this storm going on right now. And if you look at our Earth, if we look at where we live, this planet that's out in space, we in some ways go about our daily lives oblivious to all the actions going on around us in space, in the solar system, in the universe. This cosmic storm that actually has a violent nature to it is the reason why we're here, the reason why we're able to live so comfortably on this planet. Before flying in space, I tried really hard to learn from the people who had flown before, to get some idea of what the experience meant to them. These astronauts had seen the whole Earth from space. while they described it as a really incredibly beautiful place, there were also some that said they felt a sense of insignificance. From the very first time I looked out the window, I felt like this is significant. The significance of it to me is how something so overwhelmingly beautiful could have come from chaos, violence, and collisions. It's just amazing to think about this fine line, this balance between being here, surviving, thriving, and not.
The storm has not been our enemy. We aren't here in spite of it. We're here because of it. And when the storm blows over, it's anything but blue skies and rainbows. Next time, here comes the sun. It is the fuel of life. But it is not our friend. The sun is a planet killer. The sun gives us warmth and light. It is the fuel of life. Without the energy of the sun, almost nothing grows, thrives, lives. But the sun was not put there for our benefit. It is not this big cloudy ball of night smiling down on us, wishing us all a good day. It is not our friend. The sun is a monster, a planet killer. But we don't see that side of the sun down here. But 8 astronauts with over 1,000 days in space between them can show us how being up there helped them understand the sun's bright fury.
It's got an incredible amount of power, which you really appreciate when you go out in space.
Just like the gods of old, the sun can give life and it can destroy life.
It's a mean son of a gun, and it's exploding, and it's sending cosmic radiation at us.
Given the amount of radiation from the sun, there shouldn't be life on the surface of the Earth. We shouldn't be here.
But we are, and we owe our lives to this world. I'm going to tell you how the Earth's core, the air above us, and life itself work to protect us. The Earth shields us in a suit of armor. And the way she does it is one hell of a strange story. See that guy in the crowd? He's just a bit different from the rest of us. He's a spaceman. Once he risked his life to fix a telescope 350 miles above the Earth. And he spent a lifetime studying the stars.
People still feel this incredible fascination with looking at the sun. Twice a year, it just crosses the line of the cross streets of Manhattan. And it sets at just that right point that it just makes a beautiful orange glow which permeates the city. In some sense, I suppose I could say I saw more of the true character of the sun than people who are always on the surface of the earth. You open the airlock and then turn around and look up. It's like a great scene in The Wizard of Oz where Dorothy comes out of the house and it's not black and white anymore. All of a sudden, the whole world is in color.
And don't forget those visors. They do something handy when that big fireball is staring at you.
Yep. One of my great eureka moments was realizing for the first time when I was in space that I was seeing the sun in a black sky. Think of that. You really see the sun as a star. Particularly when I was out in a spacesuit, the power of the sun just hits you in the guts. It just goes through your entire body.
The temperature extremes are 250 degrees in the sun, and then minus 250 in the shade. It's pretty incredible, and that our suits can withstand those temperatures.
But even we astronauts only experience a fraction of the sun's power. It has many weapons it can send our way. Heat, light, and deadly flares that can devastate entire planets. Look at Mars. Billions of years ago, we think it was just like us. Potential cradle for life. Radiation from the sun ravaged it. Solar flares with destructive power of billions of Hiroshima atomic bombs helped chew away Mars's atmosphere. And the oceans evaporated into space.
Earth is even closer to the sun than Mars. So how come we're not dust and ashes? See, the thing is, our planet is strong on defense. And every player has a role. From the edge of space to the deepest oceans, to one of the most hostile places on Earth.
We'll be sleeping with gas masks on. Sometimes it'll clear up and be beautiful, but most of the time we'll be wearing our gas masks even to bed.
Ken Sims doesn't do 9 to 5. This is his idea of a good day at the office. For over 20 years, he's ventured into active volcanoes across the globe to collect samples of molten lava. Studying this stuff is one of the best ways to understand what's happening in the center of the Earth and the process that protects us from the sun.
Pretty much that whole bottom terrace now is completely covered in brand new lava flow. Yeah. With the new lava flow coming around against the wall there, we'll have too much out.
The lava is intensely hot, roughly 2,000 degrees. It will burn pretty much anything on contact.
Okay, heading over. I'll go over just towards the edge here, we'll have a look. Holy. It's just opened up on that side, hasn't it? Yeah. Whoa. Ken, I'm pretty certain that there is absolutely no way we are going down there. That is without digression impossible.
Hey, Welker, cancel it. Just anybody with half a brain wouldn't go down there.
The new vent means Ken can't take samples from the lake, but he doesn't need to. The vent is firing fresh lava right at him.
There's a lot of lava bombs around here. It's just covered with bombs. Wow, I can see the vent from here. It's really rocking and rolling.
I'm gonna head back up. Hold on.
Sure, right?
The solid lava samples we've collected are radioactive. They have uranium and thorium in them. Those elements are really important to maintaining the heat of the Earth.
Oh, wait a second. What does any of this have to do with keeping us safe from the sun? Radioactive lava up here proves there's a raging nuclear furnace at the heart of our planet. It is one big ball of incredible heat. I mean, a very big ball. But that's not all. These molten insides are full of iron and nickel. Rising, falling, spinning in a constantly melting furnace. And all that churning metal creates its own magnetic field. This magnetic field stretches as far as 400,000 miles into space, surrounding the entire planet. It is a massive force field, and it helps deflect the deadly radiation that that destroyed Mars.
For the most part, our magnetic field is invisible. But when the sun flares up, we get to see it in action. We call it the aurora. It's pretty much on everyone's bucket list. But in space, you see it in an entirely different way.
I saw this green bubble. It was almost like a person dancing with such shape and these forms that were moving as we went over it.
And the greens, reds, and all of the faint colors, this enormous ghost of a curtain.
You're not just seeing it with your eyes. You're feeling it. You're feeling it with your heart as well. It's a part of you.
When we look down at the aurora, it's all the more beautiful because we know that we're looking at our planet keeping us safe from the sun.
But you know what? It takes more than that one shield to keep us alive. Because the sun has another weapon, a silent assassin. The assassin's name? Light. Everything revolves around the sun, literally. It's the big boss of the solar system. But its most deceptive weapon is something we usually think of as our friend. Light. It's a hazard astronauts need special protection from.
We see the visible light from the sun, but there's also ultraviolet light. That can actually do significant damage.
Every portable window has special layers, different UV filters. On Space Station Mir, there was one that was not. But when I floated over that thing, if you sat there and had those rays of sun hit you, in less than a minute, you'd see your skin reddened.
The power of UV light in space means that without our gold visors, our eyesight could be damaged permanently. For almost all life on Earth, facing the sun as we do in space would ultimately be fatal. It's crazy, right? In space, you need a $12 million spacesuit to protect you from the sun. Whereas on the surface of the Earth, just some lotion does the job perfectly fine. We're quite fortunate. Only about 2% of the really damaging ultraviolet radiation from the sun actually gets down to the surface. If every bit got down to Earth, skin would burn in a matter of seconds. That's just the start. UV radiation breaks down DNA and turns healthy cells cancerous. if the full force of the sun, plants would be sterilized, microscopic life would be sterilized, the life couldn't be sustained on the surface of the earth.
Ultraviolet light is vicious. So how come we're not burned to a crisp? The answer is high above us. The sun slings deadly UV light at us, but most of it is stopped in its tracks by a thin blanket of molecules that we call the ozone layer. The ozone layer is our second shield in the sky, but it's fragile, extremely fragile. "30 years ago, we discovered man-made chemicals and punched a hole in the ozone layer. Is that hole here to stay, waiting around to kill us? Today, we're trying hard to find out. Morgan Sandercock is about to test an experimental plane perfect for sampling ozone.
We think we can go as high as 9,000 feet. That's the big one territory. That's where things can go wrong very, very quickly. If we lose cabin pressure, then the pilots could very easily pass out. And don't have any automatic systems to recover from that.
Now, glider might sound like a dangerous choice so high up, but gliders don't have engines, which means they can't pollute the team's samples. The Pro-Am glider uses air rising over the southern Andes to reach extraordinary heights.
Thirsty? 7 knots?
Roger.
52,000 feet up makes this the highest glider flight ever. But you've got to get this high to get a great picture of the ozone layer. Good news is that thanks to a global ban on ozone-harming chemicals, it looks like the hole is healing up. Our shield is regenerating. A planet is not an inanimate object. It's a living thing, and it can heal itself.
When we discovered the hole in the ozone layer, mankind did come together on that one. We banned those substances.
You look down and you see this fragile planet which supports life on its surface in the face of the incredible hostility. And so you become much more sensitive, I think, to the need to protect it.
Any way you look at it, the ozone layer is pretty special. This shield has looked after us for millions of years, even before mankind came down from the trees, even before the dinosaurs walked the earth. Without the ozone layer, there would be no human race. Life on Earth would be trapped underwater. In Earth's battle with the sun has often had the upper hand. Today, the ozone layer protects us from UV. Once upon a time, it wasn't there. The only safe place for life was under the waves. Life would probably still be down there if it wasn't for something new that emerged nearly 3 billion years ago and found a way to use sunlight to its advantage.
Billions of years ago, as ancient organisms first harnessed the energy of the sun, they began producing a waste product, oxygen. At first, it was just a few individuals, but thousands became millions, millions became trillions, all bubbling up oxygen. When oxygen gas rises high into the atmosphere, something very special happens to it. It transforms into protective ozone. Under the shelter of this ozone layer, first microbes, then fungi and plants migrated out of the water. And this meant even more oxygen was being produced, further strengthening our shield against the sun's UV light. And this would help make possible one of our planet's most defining moments. Protected by a thicker ozone layer than ever before, a whole new world of possibilities opened up for life on Earth. I think it was about 400 million years ago when simple vertebrates first took their tentative steps onto dry land. It's probable that these early animals were moving around using something that was still pretty much like fins that they used to get around in the water. With that one small step from water to dry land, life on Earth changed forever. That was one small step for animal kind and one giant leap for life on Earth.
Light spilled out of the water in a billion different ways, taking on a host of forms. All because of that special layer of oxygen up in the sky. All right, so that's two shields that our planet gives us. But the sun has a final weapon, heat. It's pumping out millions of degrees of powerful burn. And that powerful burn is intensified by an ally down here on Earth. One feared by people everywhere.
Nama saya Romo Ade. Untuk masyarakat Tengger membeli sesaji teater terkurang Tengger. Apa itu istilahnya setia kepada leluhur karena memberi keselamatan kita semua. Untuk masyarakat Tengger memberi sesaji ke kawan Romo biar tidak marah duduk.
Volcanoes make terrible neighbors. But even if you live far away from one, like on the other side of the planet, a volcano could still make you feel the heat. Much of this gas cloud is CO2, carbon dioxide. And CO2 is a killer. It traps heat in the atmosphere. If you want to know how dangerous CO2 can be, just try taking a walk on Venus.
The surface of Venus is out of hell.
Surprisingly, the planet with the hottest temperature at the surface in our whole solar system is Venus, even though it's not the planet closest to the sun. That is purely the effect of having too much carbon dioxide in your atmosphere.
On Earth, volcanoes have been firing CO2 into the sky for billions of years. So here's the question. How come it's pretty cool here on Earth while Venus is fully baked? Well, the Earth has its own way of dealing with CO2, unique to this planet. But it can easily go wrong. The sun threatens us with solar explosions and ultraviolet light, but its most dangerous weapon could be plain old heat. It can cook planets, especially ones wrapped in a warm blanket of carbon dioxide gas. But the Earth has its own very elegant way to stop itself from being boiled dry by the sun. The best way to see it in action is from 250 miles straight up.
Just like the human body has ways of keeping all of our systems in check, similarly, the Earth has its own regulatory system. And it's kept just about the right amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. From space, you get a unique perspective. The process starts with something no other planet in the solar system has. An air conditioning system made possible by uranium. Normally, we think of the rain as being pure water coming down out of the sky. But actually, it's carrying dissolved carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. And this makes it acidic enough to dissolve rocks. Ultimately, this water, silt, and locked up carbon dioxide will all get washed into the planet's rivers. This process goes on right under our noses every day. But sometimes it can make itself visible in a truly spectacular fashion.
约90%的黄河井流。那黄河的井流每年大概是4个地方。若水库不排水防沙，泥沙将侵占水库的防洪库，导致水库防洪不足。
These people get to take a small peek at the way our world keeps itself cool. And wow, is it impressive.
那个市场，感觉到非常的壮观，像万马奔腾一样。
Hidden in all that water is carbon pulled from the sky. This great river is forcing it into the ocean. Seen from above, its raging majesty is laid out for the stars to see.
Looking at rivers from space, you really get a sense of the movement of huge amounts of material. It's unforgettable. You can see the brown color which goes way, way out into the ocean. As rivers spit out huge quantities of sediment and lock up CO2, carbon that was once in our atmosphere gets buried at the bottom of the ocean. That helps cool down our planet. Over millions of years, the cycle of rain, rivers, and volcanoes has helped balance the CO2 in our atmosphere, keeping us warm in the coldness of space, while preventing us from being boiled alive by the sun. I had studied Earth science, but when you actually go into space, you feel it on a visceral level. You realize it's the living Earth.
All these systems on the planet, whether it's volcanoes, whether it's currents in the ocean, are shaping and molding this planet that we see.
It looks like it's its own organism. Like it's living, it's breathing, it's as the clouds move. I mean, it's almost like it looks alive.
Nature's ancient systems have kept our planet safe for billions of years. But now they're changing in a very big way.
Right now, humans are pumping 60 times more CO2 into our atmosphere than volcanoes. There isn't enough time for the Earth's air conditioning system to correct the problem. The planet is getting hotter. How much hotter? That depends on us. It's not going to be easy, but my hope is that just as we fixed the ozone hole, humans are ultimately going to be able to fix this.
Human beings don't have to just stand by and watch Earth's war with the sun. We can help. We have to. For almost 4 billion years, our planet has held off the power of the sun. But that fireball will get us in the end. And thanks to Jeff Hoffman, we've been given a terrifying glimpse into the future. A very bright future. For almost 4 billion years, our planet has shielded us from the sun. But those shields won't protect us forever. Ask Jeff Hoffman, who's part of the team who allowed us to see our ultimate fate when he helped fix the Hubble telescope.
Hubble couldn't see straight. It was the butt of jokes of late-night comedians. It was denounced in the halls of the U.S. Congress as a techno-turkey. It was a disaster. So fixing Hubble was critical for the future space activities that NASA wanted to carry out.
We are inspired. We are ready. Let's go fix this thing.
Both as an astronomer and an astronaut could take my two hands and put them on the Hubble Space Telescope and actually fix it.
And every motion of the action door.
Because you were alive.
That's been a great source of satisfaction.
You have a good relief.
Not me, and we very much appreciate it.
I do have some good news for you, Jeff. The payload folks have gone through a complete checkout and are fully functional.
Great news.
Thanks to Jeff and the team, Hubble went from turkey to triumph.
Some of these images are almost biblical in their intensity. They still give me goosebumps when I look at them. So many different forms and colors, it looks like the work of some psychedelic artist, but it's the universe that we live in. I mean, it's extraordinary.
The work on Hubble meant we could capture the exact moment when a star like the sun dies.
sun is going to grow in size, swallowing up the earth. And in those final moments, all matter on our planet, all traces of life will be torn apart as the earth is enveloped by the sun. When I came back on Earth and looked up at the sun, it looked the way it had always looked before, except I knew that I had seen it like it really was. It's like seeing somebody's true nature very briefly when they let their guard down, and then you never see that again.
Earth's protected us from the sun for billions of years. It's been one of the main reasons that life has been able to thrive here on the surface.
As a biological creature, we need the earth to protect us. And these shields provide sort of a blanket over us to just keep us secure and sort of carefree on the planet.
Were we just lucky that all these things happen to be in place? Well, of course, if they weren't in place, we wouldn't be here and I wouldn't be talking about this.
Next time you take a walk outside when the sun is high in the sky, take a moment and think about the iron churning at the Earth's core, the oxygen bubbling out from under the sea, the rain crashing onto the rocks. All these things that came before us and made this world possible. Those chance events, those planetary systems that allow our little mote of dust to survive in a sunbeam. You, me, and everyone we know, we're lucky. Lucky to get as far as we have, and lucky to be here now. But this is not the end of the story. Next time, how all life on Earth got started. And let me tell you, that takes strange to a whole new level. Hola, Cuca.
Ay, te estuvimos viendo por aquí todo el tiempo, Cookie. Qué hermosa. Mira esta pendejada que dijo, ay, pues ya no le pongo nada. Pinche Netflix idiota.
Good. Sí, vimos que te estuviste mueve, güey.
Nada, se movió una vez.